Hi friends, welcome back to Popsicle-frog Knits. My name is Brooke and this is my channel where I talk about knitting. I always say maybe other crafts will appear, but so far it's just knitting because it takes up all of my time, which isn't a bad thing. I love it, so welcome. Happy New Year! I hope you guys have all had a great start to 2023. I can't believe it's 2023. In my head it's still 2017, so that was a long time ago and is not now, but here we are. So today's video is going to be a knitting plans and goals video. I feel like I'm a little bit late to the party because it is the 29th of January and most people have already made these videos, so I don't want to sound like I'm just repeating what other people are saying. But I haven't had a chance to film till now, and I love watching these, and it was really fun to put this one together, so I'm excited to make it. This is actually my third time filming this video. Hopefully this time will be better and I won't say every other word like I did in the last version. I started editing it and it was so distracting and I was like, this cannot exist. And the first time I just didn't end up filming the whole thing because I kind of forgot because I had to stop part of the way through. But here we are. You didn't really need to know all that. We're gonna get into it. I'm gonna start with goals and then go on to my knitting plans. And let's get into the goals. So I kind of have two big goals. Neither of them are things that can be like added up, or they're not numerical, so I can't really track them, but they're the goals that I want to have in my mind while I'm knitting. So there's kind of two branches. The first branch is that I want to keep knitting fun, and within that I want to make sure I'm taking care of my hands and my arms and everything that I need to knit. And I also want, with that, I want to slow down. So if you watch my last video, I made a lot of garments and accessories and all kinds of things last year. I think I had about 30 items that I showed in that video and I kind of forgot a couple. So I made over 30 things last year in my first year of knitting, and the reason that I made so many is that I did not work last year. So I took a year off for family health reasons, my own mental and physical health reasons, and so I spent the majority of my time knitting because that was all I wanted to do, and it was something that kept me occupied and not thinking about all the other stuff going on more than I had to. So I was knitting really quickly. I was finishing things so fast and moving on to the next one because I was just so excited to start the next project, because I am a process and a product knitter, so I love the process of knitting, but I get part of the way through and I'm like, okay, I want this done so I can wear it. And then I try to like speed through the knitting. And so I want to be able to slow down, enjoy the process, and not rush to finish something so I can cast on something new. I'm not a monogamous knitter. I don't knit on just one thing typically. Right now I'm only working on one project. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I want to keep knitting fun. I don't want to burn out because knitting has become something that is, for lack of a better word or term, a coping mechanism for me. It's a way that I can take the nervous energy I have in my hands, which you can probably see if you watch my videos. I do weird things with my hands sometimes. I play with my hair quite a bit. I just have so much anxiety, and it manifests in my body, and I have to constantly be doing something, or things get to be too much. So knitting is a way for me to channel the energy that I have in my hands that before would be used to like pick at my fingers or my face or any number of things, and take that and make it something productive and something that I love. It's been really great for me as I deal with all of these mental health things. And so I don't want to burn out, because it is such an important thing for my mental health to be doing, that I don't want to lose something that is so beneficial to me. So that's kind of my keep knitting fun goal. And okay, it's storming here today, so there might be some thunder. You can probably hear the rain. I love a stormy day, as long as there's no lightning. I'm terrified of lightning. It's so bad. It's like it borderlines on a phobia. But right now it's just raining, and there was some thunder earlier. I have seen no lightning, so we're good at the moment. But if you can hear it, it's all kind of cozy. I enjoy rainy days. It's supposed to rain all week, so hopefully the lighting on this video isn't bad. I don't have any of the overhead lights on because it looks so weird, but there's also not a lot of natural light coming in, so we'll see if I have to fix it in post. But let's move on to kind of the second prong of goals that I have, which all are based on intentionality. Intentionality is something that I've heard a lot of other knitting YouTubers talk about in their goals, and I think it's a really important goal, which is why I'm also talking about it. It's something I really want to implement into my own knitting, because I want to be intentional about what I'm choosing to make and my yarn purchases, or what yarn I'm using for projects. That's kind of two in one, but it has to do with yarn, so I'm putting them together. So with choosing the patterns that I purchase, I've already talked pretty extensively about size inclusivity, so that's one of the things I'm being intentional about. Second, I want to be intentional with who I'm supporting. I really, really want to support smaller designers and not just knit a bunch of petite knit patterns, which there's nothing wrong with petite knit patterns. I love them, but I spent so much of the second half of last year knitting petite knit patterns that I really want to try to support smaller, more indie designers, because I think there's some incredible patterns that I haven't seen that much of on like knitting Instagram or knitting YouTube. And so I want to support them and their work, because there's some gorgeous patterns. I have some on my list. Also, I don't really have a marker for what indie designer means, but I'm kind of going with not petite, like not the size of Petite Knit or my favorite things knitwear, who I don't make patterns from, or I don't make garments from her patterns, but they're kind of what I see as the two like big designers. So supporting independent designers is something I want to be intentional about, and I really want to be intentional about how the garment I choose, how it will fit into my wardrobe. So basically, I try to be intentional when buying clothes and making sure that the piece that I buy is going to be something that I wear. And I want to do the same thing with my knitwear. So That's kind of the intentionality with choosing patterns. Do they fit my style? Do I think I'll get a lot of wear out of it? I need to be more picky when it comes to choosing sweater patterns, because I live in Houston right now, and as much as I want to just make sweaters forever and hopefully live someplace cold at some point, I need to make sure they're things that I can get use out of. And I mean, thankfully, everything here is air conditioned, so if I really want to wear a sweater, I can do it. The second part of intentionality is about my yarn purchases. So I'm not someone who has a big stash. Like, I do not, for the exception of one of the projects I have listed in this that I've already bought yarn for, I do not have, and one yarn that I don't know what to do with because I ordered it for a project and it didn't work for that project, and then I tried it for another project and I'm gonna frog that project. Other than those two things, I don't have sweater quantities of yarn in my stash because of budget reasons, and I also have only been knitting a year, so I haven't built up an accumulation of yarn. I have realized I have more scraps than I thought I did. I actually have lots of scraps because I tend to overbuy and because I'm worried about running out. So I do have quite a lot of scraps. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them at this point in time, but I think I'm going to just keep building up the scraps until I have something I can use them for. But I don't have a big stash. So stash-wise, I don't really have any goals of like getting rid of things. But I do want to be intentional with the yarns that I am buying. I want to make sure that it is a yarn that will work for the project that I want it to. So that means looking at the fiber content and looking at projects on Ravelry and seeing what yarns people have used, and if you find a yarn that you like, seeing how it looks. Because, for example, with the yarn that I bought that didn't work, it was the Simply Alpaca Aran, I believe is the name, from Knit Picks, and it's 100% alpaca, and I bought it to do the Ingrid sweater. And even though it said it was Aran, it is not. It's like a DK weight. It's not even worsted, it's a DK weight. And also, alpaca is really not great for structured knits, which I didn't know because I didn't do any research. I just thought the color looked nice, and it said it was Aran weight. So I bought it, and now I just have a ton of 100% alpaca yarn sitting with nothing to do with it. But I want to go forward, and I like buying yarn when I have a project in mind. I don't really like the idea of buying yarn just to have yarn. I say that, but I'm really into indie dyed yarn. And so when pre-orders happen, that might be something down the line. If I have the money to do, I might buy sweater quantities, but it's expensive, and again, I didn't work last year, so I don't have a big budget for buying yarn. I buy it when I need it, and that's just the way it's been going for the last year. Except when my local yarn store has a sale and I see yarns that are normally expensive and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such a good price for it, I'm gonna buy it. And so now I have 3 skeins of Noro Sonata in like a denim blue color, which is not a color that I wear. I have 3 skeins. I don't know what to do with them. Ooh, the rain's picking up. But they're just sitting in my stash, and that does make me a little like, I don't like it. That's my goals with yarn. I think, let me double check. Yeah, that's the goals for yarn and buying yarn intentionally. And even if I do buy sweater quantities, I want to know that I have projects in mind that they would work with. The rain's really picking up. I'm sorry if it's distracting. but it's supposed to rain all week, so I figured I'd just film now. The last kind of area that I forgot to mention at the top of this is trying new things and trying new techniques, because I've only been knitting for, December was a year, and there's so many techniques that I haven't tried, like brioche and fisherman's rib. I think those are both gorgeous and I would love to try them. And a lot of these techniques you'll probably see reflected in, I don't know why I'm pointing down. You'll probably see them when I talk about what patterns I want to knit this year. And here, cabling, I really have not done. I've done the faux cables in the Ingrid sweater, but I have not done a cable sweater. Again, we're going to talk about patterns. And I want to do more color work, potentially. So I've done color work before with the very special socks, but I have not done a garment in color work. So maybe I'll do that this year. Maybe it'll be a next year thing. We'll see. It's not on the top of my priority list at the moment. Let's move into the patterns, which I'm very excited about. I think they're gonna be there. I'm very excited about all of them. So I have a, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I guess this is a make 9. I don't know. Make 9, I wasn't gonna do, but I have 9 patterns. Actually, I have way more than that, but we'll call it 10. We'll say 10 because one of them is in a category, and I just have patterns that I like that I'll briefly mention. But the first thing is I am trying to make a pair of socks every other month as part of the Beefy Socks 2023 make-along. It's hosted by Kate of Red Door Fiber Studios, whose yarn I absolutely love. And she set the goal of trying to make 6 pairs of socks this year, and it turned into a make-along. And so I am trying to be a part of that. I'm working on being a part of that make-along. So I've already finished 1 pair of socks, which is exciting, and I'll talk more about in my podcast episode. But here are some sock patterns that I really like that I might make, might not make, we'll see what happens, but these are kind of ones that are inspiring me at the moment. So the first is the Ravelry sock, which is by, and my computer's down here and I have my notes. Let's see, I can bring it here. So I'm only looking like that for now. But I'm sorry if I mispronounce anyone's names. I'm doing my best. Pronunciation is not my strong suit whatsoever. But the first one is the Ravelry Socks by Allison Lutz, and that's from Pom Pom magazine issue 40, which is the spring 2022, which I feel like everyone has. It's the pastel one that has the cloud bow dress in it, and it's just the most absolutely gorgeous magazine that I've ever seen. And these are one of the pair, I don't know if there's multiple pairs of socks. It's a pair of socks from that magazine. They are colorwork socks, and I just think they're gorgeous. So the second and third ones are both by Charlotte Stone of Stone Knits, and one of them I do have a pattern for because I started making them before I understood different types of yarn. I bought wool for the sock, and then for the colorwork parts I bought a cotton that was way thinner, and they look terrible. So I have the yarn now to be able to make them the way that I want to make them. But they are the Magic Toadstool socks, I can't remember if I said, by Stone Knits. And they're just so fun and cute. I love how they look. The second pattern from Stone Knits is the Blooming Lavender socks, which are also gorgeous. The color work looks like it would be really fun to do, and I think they're just really pretty. Next, I have the Totally Rad Ribbed Sock by Summerlee Knits, which is the title says it's a ribbed sock. It has bands of color work, almost like be it's not a varsity sock, but like a sporty sock. Like a vintage kind of sporty sock look, I guess. Which I have socks similar to that I like, store-bought ones that I absolutely love, and I would love to make a pair of ribbed socks with that fun little bands of the different colors. I have 2 more sock patterns. The next one is the Bear Paw Socks by Andrea Mowry. These are a DK weight ribbed sock, and I love a thick sock because it gets cold in my house because of air conditioning, and I think the Bear Paw Socks would just be fun to make. And she has examples of using like a DK weight that's one color or using 2 fingerings to make a marl effect, and I don't know which one I would lean towards, but we'll see. The last sock I have is really fun, and these are the Cosmic Latte Socks by Shannon Biscaglia, also known as the Lectory. She has a couple of podcast episodes that I really enjoyed, but I don't think she's made one in a while. But the Cosmic Latte Socks have a stitch pattern that most people are probably familiar with at this point because it is the dip stitch, which is everywhere, I feel like. I think Sari Nordlund is designing a shawl or a scarf that has it, and the biggest one is the Cargill sweater by Rebecca of the CreaBea, which is a gorgeous sweater. But these socks use the dip stitch, and I think this would be a really fun way to try out the dip stitch, and I think it would make a really squishy sock, and I think these are just gorgeous and would love to have a pair. So those are the 6 sock patterns that I'm inspired by at this moment. And now let's get into the 9 garment patterns that I'm going to talk about, which I'm gonna make a disclaimer here. I have already finished one of these and started on the second one. So we're gonna start with those 2 because I made this list in December because it was my 2023 knitting plans video, and now we're a month in almost, and I started working on my plans before I made this video. So I'm still gonna talk about them. I will talk about my versions of them in my next podcast episode, which hopefully will be next week. We'll see how filming goes. But the first one is the Lunati by Carissa Lamb. I've heard it also pronounced Charissa, but the way I would pronounce it is Carissa, so that's what I'm saying. So it is the Lunati, which is this beautiful top, and it is in broken rib. It's 2x2 broken rib, yeah, and it just is stunning. I love how it looks. Emily Curtis of Gently Chaotic Knits, who I'm actually going to talk about in a minute, she has a version of it that I saw, and I was like, I have to make that. So I hadn't done broken rib before. This one is finished. It is actually on my blocking mat. It's dry. I just need to take it off of there. The Lunati. The pattern is stunning, and I just loved how it looked, and so that was actually the first garment I cast on this year, and again, it's on my blocking mat. So I'll talk more about my version in the podcast episode, but I don't know why I'm doing this. I've already put a picture because that's how I do that. Lunati. So pretty. Yeah. So now I mentioned that I was going to talk about Emily of Gently Chaotic Knits because right now I'm working on knitting the dad sweater, which is a pattern by Emily, who on Instagram is Emily Kurt. I'll have everything linked below. But I absolutely love this pattern. I love the way it's written. This is my first of her patterns. I love how it's written. It reads really well. And I also just love how the sweater looks. And I am knitting mine in a very similar color, which I'll actually show you the yarn for. It's in this bag. So I'm knitting it in a very similar color to her sample, which is this gray. So she uses La Bien Aimée Corey worsted, and I am using Kelborn Woolens Scout in the color Gray Heather. And I'm really loving the yarn, but I'm not going to talk about the yarn, I'm talking about the pattern. I'm making it a very similar color to her because I am using this as a sweater version of a sweatshirt. So I think Young Folk Knits is doing a knit along or a make along called the Bougie Sweatshirt. Make along or knit along, I'm not sure which one it is. And that's basically what I'm making, is a bougie sweatshirt. The pattern is inspired by Emily's dad's the Land's End sweaters he used to wear when she was younger. And I think it is the perfect bougie sweatshirt. And I want a sweater that I can just wear around the house, and instead of just wearing my two sweatshirts that I got at uni for free. I love them though. I'm not getting rid of them because they're the best. They're great. So that's why I'm knitting the dad sweater. It's also cool. It has kind of set-in sleeves, which I've never done before. And I'm about to finish the body, so maybe I'll start the sleeves later today. Gotta do my Italian bind off, which I'm so excited about. I love an Italian bind off, except with Surrey, or just alpaca. No. Just alpaca. If it's help with something, it's fine, but just alpaca or just mohair, not doing it. So the next two sweaters are both Petite Knit. One of them, we'll just get into them. I have yarn for both of them. So I'm going to show you the yarn because this is the other sweater quantity that I have in my stash, and it is for a Moby sweater. So this is the Barocco Ultra Alpaca, which is actually it's a yarn I've used before and is actually one of my favorites that I've used. I used it for my Ingrid sweater. And so I just have this cream color. I don't know the name, but the number is 6201. This is 50% alpaca, 50% wool. And I'm going to just set it back here. And the Moby sweater is on my list because I want to try cables, and part of why I got into knitting was because I want a kind of classic fisherman's sweater. The word sweater just left my brain. Sometimes there's a disconnect and words just escape my head. But I really want a fisherman jumper. And I also, this is an obscure fact, but there is a musical version of Moby Dick that was done at the American Repertory Theater in Boston, where I went to school. And it's like a 4-hour musical, but I loved it so much that I saw it twice within a 3-day period because student tickets were like $15, and it was fantastic. And so it's the Moby sweater. I kind of feel like I have to make it because I love that musical so much. It was a weird musical. It's so good though. I have a Moby Dick mug also, so I'm really excited to have my Moby sweater and my Moby Dick mug and be very, very cozy and feel very on theme. I'm also going to be knitting a Moby sweater for my cousin. He has asked me to knit him one because he wants a sweater that has the same vibe as the sweater Chris Evans wears in Knives Out. And there is an actual reverse engineered pattern for that sweater, but I think the Moby sweater looks nicer, and he was fine with that one. So the yarn for his version is on its way. Hopefully it'll get here soon because I need to get a jump on that. So I will be making 2 Moby sweaters. My cousin's will be first. Mine might end up not being made until later in the year, depending on how I'm feeling after I make the first one. Okay, second and last Petite Knit pattern, I only have 2 on here, I'm quite proud of myself for that, is the marble sweater. And this one is more the idea of the sweater and not necessarily the pattern. Like if I can find a different pattern that is similar, I will do that. But I have this mohair from All You Knit Is Love, which is a yarn store in Barcelona. I have 2 skeins of this, so I have 100 grams. And so I need a project that only uses 100 grams of mohair, and the marble sweater is super chunky, and I could make it with the amount of yarn that I have. And I think a super chunky, gigantic sweater is just something I want in my wardrobe. Obviously I wouldn't get a ton of wear out of it, but that's fine because I would get some wear out of it. So I'm looking to make like a super chunky sweater with this mohair that I have. It's so gorgeous. The color is Cherry Sundae, and so it just has these beautiful tones, and there's some brown in there, and I love it. That's the last Petite Knit pattern, and then the rest of these, I'm not sure which yarns I'm going to be using. So the first one is actually more of a summer garment. It's the Rib to Your Measure top by Winwood Farms, and it is a really nice looking ribbed tank, and I would love a knitted rib tank. And I have a couple of single skeins of hand-dyed yarn that would be perfect for this. I just don't know which one I'm going to use yet, or if I end up finding a single skein of hand-dyed yarn that I like in a store, I could use that. But I really want to make this. It's really pretty, and let me see. It's just looks like it'll be a really versatile top. Like I could wear it under knitwear, I can wear it by itself in the summer. Just a workhorse kind of top that's really cute too. And I like the high neck because, again, I can wear it under knitwear and not be itchy. So the next sweater I have bought yarn for, but it was pre-order, so I do not have the yarn. I will insert a picture of the yarn when I talk about it, but I want to make the classic, which is by Espace Tricot. So a lot of people on Knitting Instagram have been making the Louvre sweater by Petite Knit. It's a DK weight sweater. It's a big, oversized, I don't know if it's a mock neck or a funnel neck, but it doesn't matter. It has a high neck, but it's not a turtleneck. And I think it's a gorgeous pattern. But there's a free pattern that looks exactly the same, that has the same gauge and the same needle size. So I'm gonna use the free pattern, which is Espace Tricot, and I've only heard good things about their patterns. So that's what I'm going to be knitting. The yarn I'm going to be using is from Long Dog Yarns Lord of the Ring collection pre-order. I am so excited. It's really, she got to capacity within an hour of the pre-order going live, so I'm very, very excited that I was able to get this yarn. And the yarn I got is the Deep Breath Before the Plunge colorway, and it is just absolutely stunning. I'm going to put a picture of it. I will be using that yarn to make the classic by Espace Tricot. So we got 3 more patterns. Exciting. So the next one is also by Carissa Lamb, and it is the Arcuate vest, which is a cropped sweater vest that has cables on it. And I want to make more vests and slipovers this year because I think they're adorable and would fit quite well into my wardrobe because I wear a lot of just plain t-shirts and I think they would look fun over those. Or even like some of the dresses I have would be cute and kind of wear it as a skirt. But cabling is on my list of things I want to do, and I think this pattern is just really fun. And I love all of the versions of it that I've seen. There was, I think, a tweed one that I saw that I think would be so fun to make a tweed classic looking sweater vest. That just feels fun to me. Okay, so the last two patterns I have are actually both in testing right now, but I'm so excited about both of them. Like, I can't even explain the excitement I feel about these patterns because they are both things that will fit, I think, perfectly into my wardrobe and have kind of been looking for in knit patterns. So the first is the Lanark sweater, which is by Rebecca of the CreaBea, and it is this absolutely gorgeous half fisherman's rib zipper sweater. So I looked at the zipper sweater from Petite Knit a lot because I like the idea of a zipper sweater, but the half fisherman's rib just does something to the zipper sweater that just is stunning, and I need it. It will go so well with everything I own, and I think I will wear it so often as just, it looks so squishy and lovely, and I cannot wait to make it. But I think it's coming out in early March, and we'll see when I cast it on. I have no idea what yarn I'm going to use. I think it's a DK weight pattern, and I actually really love the Kelborn Woolen Scout. This is the first time I've used it, but it's really nice and it's really soft after blocking. So maybe I'll use that in another color. And the last pattern that I have is the Harlow sweater V-neck version by Caidree. So she released the Harlow sweater earlier this month, I believe, and the V-neck version is currently in testing, but I think is going to be released in about 2 weeks. I think she posted that on her Instagram yesterday. And I have been looking for a V-neck sweater that has the double folded band detail. I think that's just gorgeous and so squishy. I keep talking about squishy. I like squishy. Like, I have Squishmallows on my bed because I just like squishing things. I'm doing the thing with my hands, but I really want a V-neck sweater. It's not something I own or something that I have made, unless you count the 2 Cumulus blouses I've made, but this is a completely different thing. I believe it's a worsted or Aran weight, so it's on bigger needles, which is just lovely. It'll be so good. I'm so excited about it. And it's very similar, I think, to sweater number 14 V-neck edition by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which only has 3 sizes. So definitely not gonna use that pattern. I'm really stoked about this pattern because I've been looking for a chunky V-neck that was not sweater number 14. So it's all good. Very excited. So those are the patterns that I want to knit this year. Obviously, it's gonna change. There are gonna be new patterns that come out that I'm like, ooh, new and shiny, and I want to make that. But I do really want to make a lot of these pieces because I believe they'll be like essentials in my wardrobe, which is great because it's my 2nd year of knitting and I'm really trying to build up my wardrobe with things I'm going to wear and that are going to fit with what I already have. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys for sticking around, and I'm so glad, like, I haven't made a video in a while and I'm very glad to be back filming and making and just talking about knitting. If you like this video and you want to see more, you can like, comment if you would like to. I'd love to know what your plans are And also, if you have any ideas of what to do with like 8 or 9 skeins of 100% alpaca yarn, please help me. But if you want to stick around, you can subscribe. It would mean so much to me. Like, I can't believe people watch my videos. I'm not gonna get into that. But if you want to see what I'm up to when I am, other than in my videos, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at popsicle_frog. And if you want, you can go to my Ravelry, which is popsicle-frog. It's a little confusing. And yeah, so I hope you guys are having a great start to your new year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.